Hey everyone, I'm super excited. I just bought another EV this week. This is a used EV, not a brand new one, but I had a need for a second car just to have for errands and also for other family members. And the car I bought is first gen Nissan Leaf. I love it. Let me show you around. Here it is in all its glory, a 2015 Nissan Leaf SV, which is the metal trim, I believe. So I guess the question is, why a Nissan Leaf? And specifically, why this Nissan Leaf? Well, I needed something for short, basically errands around the house. I'm probably never gonna go more than like 30 kilometers, 20 miles in this car away from its home charger, so that's perfect. And these things have, basically so many of these have been produced. It is the first mass-produced EV pretty much ever, that if you're gonna buy an EV that is out of warranty, this might be a really good one to go for, because all of it is kind of really well known, all of the problems they have and all the fixes, and a lot of workshops are able to do repairs on them if something does go wrong. But the battery on them, which has been proven to be pretty reliable. So these of course came with a 24 kilowatt hour pack, 21 usable, and depending on the condition, maybe like 16 kilowatts of that is actually going to be available to you, again depending on degradation. So not too bad. Basically it's the same capacity as like a plug-in hybrid these days, but because it is so small and efficient, you do actually get a decent amount of range out of a used Leaf like this. And I guess the next question is, why this Leaf specifically? And this is not the first Leaf I looked at that I bought. As you can see, it is in decent shape. This is a 10-year-old car. It is a steel body and chassis, and there's really not that much rust on this, which is impressive for a car in Canada. And I've looked at a number of examples, and I've seen two of them. I even drove 2 hours away from home to see another one with 11 out of 12 state of health battery bars. More on this in a second. But that car did not work out for me because it did not have CHAdeMO fast charging, which I'll get to in a minute too. This car does have CHAdeMO charging and 6 kilowatt onboard AC charging. It's pretty good shape overall, and importantly, there are no funny smells on the inside. It's not a smoker. That's usually a deal breaker for any used car. And let me show you, I'm gonna fire up this dashboard here, which looks advanced for its time. And one of the most important things when you look at any Gen 1 Leaf are these thin bars over here, which is the battery state of health. I did buy Leaf Spy, which is like a OBD diagnostic tool, but my adapter did not work with it. I have one on the way. But this has 10 out of 12 of these thin bars here, and that means I think it has around 80% state of health from new. For a 10-year-old car, that's very impressive. So right now we are charged to, what is this, 66%. And it's giving me an indicated 90 kilometers of range, which is pretty good. And when it's close to full, I'm getting somewhere between 120 and 130 like guessometer kilometers, which is pretty good. Brand new, this would have been 160 kilometers or 100 miles of range. And you could see here, there's an eco mode here too, so which kind of dulls the throttle response. So eco mode gives you more range. And then you can even observe, it's pretty smart, like if you turn on AC, you have a bit less range, so AC is a big drain. And then there is a resistive heater here, which you turn on separately, also a hit on the range. But honestly, I've been getting really good efficiency rolling around in this Leaf. I think I'm getting something like 7 kilometers around town and maybe like 6 on the highway per kilowatt hour. So really good efficiency. And overall, like, it's just a nice place to be. We have speedometer here. We have, of course, our power. So power, these bubbles fill white when you're accelerating, and they turn green on this side for regen. And this is one of the very few EVs you're going to find that actually has a battery temperature gauge. So right now we're at 6 bars, right about in the middle, it's a super hot day, 30 degrees Celsius. And the reason why you really care about the battery temperature in this car is actually because unlike more modern EVs, there's no liquid thermal management of this battery pack. So liquid thermal management basically circulates fluids in the battery pack to make sure it doesn't get too hot or too cold. And for example, for preconditioning a Tesla to warm up the pack for fast charging, it can heat up the battery pack, and when it's too hot, it can cool it with liquid thermal management. This Leaf is basically passively air cooled. So when the battery does get too hot, then it really limits performance. So repeated fast charging on CHAdeMO will basically increase the temperature of the battery pack to a point where it has to throttle back on performance and charging. I mentioned I looked at another car prior to this one, and the reason why I couldn't get it is because it was 2 hours away, and which is fine. I was planning a road trip with CHAdeMO charging to get home. But when I got to the car, I saw something I was not expecting. My Leaf here on the charge port, which is in the front here, it has both J1772 AC home charging, and it does have CHAdeMO, which I've never actually uncovered. So that's what CHAdeMO here looks like for DC fast charging. Only 45 or so kilowatts, but still better than nothing. And the Leaf that I saw from another seller actually had this blocked out. There was no DC charging on that one at all, which maybe explains why it had 11 out of 12 battery bars instead of health. So the battery was even better health than that because they couldn't really drive it far and they couldn't charge it fast. Because it turns out that for these first gen Leafs, in the bottom two trims, CHAdeMO was actually an optional upgrade. So the default base Leaf only had AC charging on J1772. If you wanted fast charging, that was an optional package. So that means that the Leaf that I found that was 2 hours away, I would simply not be able to make it in time home because I would have to find basically slow chargers. And worse still is that if you didn't get the CHAdeMO, your AC charging was actually only limited to 3.3 kilowatts, I believe. If you did get the CHAdeMO upgrade, your AC charger is now 6.6 kilowatts, so that's more reasonable and more comparable to modern EVs. So that's what this looks like. It's luckily, well, CHAdeMO is on its way out, but luckily J1772 is still around and plentiful. This is basically most non-Tesla EVs still use J1772. So let's talk dollars and cents. How much does something like this cost in today's money? So you can get in Canada here a Nissan Leaf anywhere between like $3,500, $4,000, $5,000, and then nicer examples are going to be more. This one with 82,000 miles, 130,000 kilometers on the clock, and again 10 out of 12 battery bars, which is a state of health, was listed for $5,500, and then I was able to negotiate a little bit, and I got it for $5,250 Canadian, plus of course registration and taxes and all that. But that I think is a steal, a really good deal for a car in decent condition, very decent capability around town. Definitely not a long distance car, but this could be an excellent second car or somebody trying to dip their toes into EVs without going all in. At like $5,000 and a bit. It's honestly like a really good deal, and it's a really fun car to drive. I have it on my temporary tags here, so I still have to do safety on Monday, but what I have done so far is I gave it a new set of tires. I wanted to at first run this and as little money as possible, but I was looking for used tires. But you can't believe how many sellers are out there trying to basically dump their used tires that still have tread on them, but the tires are so old. I was getting tires from like 2019 listed on Facebook Marketplace. That's just not acceptable because as tires age, they become more brittle and they basically dry rot and they become noisy and unsafe to drive on. So I ended up with I found a set of Goodyear Eagle RSA tires. These look really nice. Even the installers polished them. I found these for $125 Canadian a pop, so $500 for tires plus a bit of labor. But now this thing drives really nice. It's like riding on a magic carpet. I always love driving on new tires. Tires is the single best upgrade you could do to any car. But I think I did leave a little bit of budget left over in case I have to do a little bit of work on suspension, bushings, or any of the rods or connections. It is a used car after all. You should have that in your budget. But otherwise, like, this drives really nice. It has good alignment. Again, the body's in good shape. There is one area where there is a little bit of damage. I don't know if you could see on camera. Somebody had a little bit of a scrape here, and I think I will be able to, if this is paint transfer, I can rub this out with some WD-40 and kind of polish this. It'll be less visible. And otherwise, this car is ready to rock. Some of the upgrades I'm considering doing down the road is maybe I'll get alloys down the road later on, but I will probably just like mask the tires and spray paint the wheels black. Like, I'll take the wheels off and just make them dark, and I'll probably pick up some cheap or used covers just to make this a little bit nicer. And I think the headlights could use a little bit of restoration here. I do have some product to get some of this yellow out. And if I have money left over in my budget, maybe I'll get some window tints and things like that. But otherwise, I'm super happy with this purchase. I'll keep you updated on this channel, of course, with my progress and how this Leaf is holding up in day-to-day use. So driving the Leaf is very easy. There is keyless entry, but there is a start button here. So you got to push the brake, turn on the car. And then we have this joystick here for reverse, drive, and B. So there's a D mode for drive, and there's a B mode for more regen. No one-pedal driving like modern EVs, but B does get you all most of the way stopped, but then you just have to apply more brake with the pedal. And I don't know if you can hear it, but there is a very annoying beeping sound when you're in reverse. There's a nice reversing camera here. This is the car with the smaller screen because it is a SV. I think if you get a SL or higher optional trims, you get a much bigger screen over here, but it does the job. It's fine. It's pretty silent to cruise. Again, on these new tires, I love how it drives. It's pretty normal driving experience. So I mentioned there's D and B, so we can just pop it over into B mode. So now there's B on the dash. And now anytime I lift from the accelerator pedal, you could feel it pulls us forward with more regen bubbles on the dash. So again, if you're doing a lot of stop and go traffic, this could be really helpful. And most of the time I'm driving around with eco mode enabled because that gives you more range, but it does dull the pedal feel. You have to press more to get acceleration. Still gives you decent overtaking power, 80 kilowatt motor, but it's not as sharp, which is kind of hilarious because I kind of treat this as like a nitrous button from Too Fast and Too Furious, because if you have your foot partially pressed and you press the eco button, the car lurches forward, which is hilarious. You kind of get thrown back in your seat. And then of course I throw it back into eco mode for kind of best range for normal driving, and like I said, it is very efficient. So it is a very conventional driving experience, but so far I've been using any excuse I could find to drive the Leaf. This thing is fun to drive. Sometimes it's fun to drive a slow car fast than it is to drive a fast car slow. And also the benefit of it being a used car with a lot of kilometers and some existing damage is that you don't really get so worked up and concerned about it. You could just slot this into the smallest parking spot of the Costco parking lot, and you don't care about door dings or damage. It just doesn't matter. You just get to enjoy the driving experience. So that's it for this video. I'm going to keep you updated on my Leaf project. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next one.